Cool. So we're getting some people coming in. Hi, everybody. Good morning. As you guys are entering the meeting, the only question that I ask is that if you guys will go on mute, that would be much appreciated. Any questions that you guys have throughout the duration of the call, just put them in the chat. I'll be keeping it open. So if you guys have anything in there, I will make sure to read that off. But good morning and welcome to our roundtable event. I'm so excited to have Kelly back with us. Kelly, if scissors make sense, she's been with us before. She's done one of these calls and it was incredible. Not a single person left without taking something very valuable home with them. So I'm really excited to chat with you about tapping into that CEO mindset. So Kelly, I will very happily kind of pass it over to you and allow you to introduce yourself and we can go ahead and get the party started.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to share my screen, bring that up. There we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you for spending your Monday with us. It is always such an honor to come on and present to this community. Like she said, the last time I was here, it was absolutely incredible. I loved every second of it. I love having chats in the DMs about business, so I can talk about this all the time. It is my favorite thing. And a lot of times people are like, oh, I feel like I don't want to bother you. I'm like, oh, you are never a bother. This is so fun for me. So I'm excited to share with you all what I've put together. And they mentioned, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. They're going to interrupt me as we go. So please feel free to make this a conversation. Sometimes I can get going in the flow. I even can get ahead of my slides because I get so excited. So please do not hesitate to jump in with a question. I want you to walk away with everything that you feel like you need. So
for what work, yeah.
As they mentioned, my name is Kelly.
Sure that
I am located in Richmond, Virginia. I have 2 salon locations. They're sister locations. We just couldn't expand in the space that we were in, so we took over 2 doors down a location where we put in some working spaces. I'm a published author. I have a book, Scissors Make Sense. It is my 12-step blueprint on how I run my business and how I scaled it to the 7-figure mark. International presenter and a business coach for salon owners. So today, what I'd like to teach you is your why is understanding a little deeper into why you became an entrepreneur. And I'm sure some of you are very familiar with that exercise, but I like to take it just a little bit deeper. So we'll go through that today. We're going to discover what your purpose is as a leader, which is so important. Your purpose is what's going to guide you in your everyday decisions. So your why is what's going to get you up out of the and your purpose is going to be the thing. There we go. Perfect. We're good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yes. You did cut out there for a second, but we have you back.
Perfect. So we're going to discover what your purpose is, and then we're going to talk about the different types of leaders so that you can become the conscious CEO in your business. Now, aside from being an entrepreneur, because I always say you are not your business and your business is not you. So we want to have those clearly defined policies and boundaries to support you. But outside of running a salon, I'm a boy mom, an English bulldog lover. Her name is Patty. I'm an Enneagram 6, if you follow that, a manifesting generator in human design. I have about a dozen tattoos. And one of my favorite things to do in my free time is watch a good cult documentary. So if you're like that, we would have a lot of fun hanging out with a lot to talk about. Now, if you're here and you're a salon owner, you have likely started your business for one of 2 reasons. You were ready to create that time and financial freedom, or you just love the industry so much and you wanted to create something to make a difference in the industry. But for anyone who has gone into salon ownership, you will know that the definition of entrepreneurship is constant stress. And I say that as a little bit of a joke, but the reality is every day is a new story. Every day there's something new being thrown at us. So we really want to get very, very clear on why we opened up a salon, because that's going to be the thing that we constantly come back to when the going gets tough. We also want you to keep in mind that it is okay to have what I like to define as chaos time in your business. So a lot of times we feel like if we're not hustling and we're not producing and we're not always busy doing something, then who and what are we? The reality is having a little bit of chaos time built into your schedule is a really good thing. So if you have a week where you're not using your chaos time and you're able to go do something for yourself, like a massage or a pedicure, that's not a bad thing because you cannot pour from an empty cup. However, if you are creating just a little bit of wiggle room in your schedule, when something does come up, you now have the capacity to handle it versus having to constantly shove it in between clients, in between meetings and inventory. So it's okay for you every week to set aside a half a day to even a full day, depending on the size of your business. So it doesn't have to always mean constant stress. Oh, I'm going to start off by sharing a little story with you because I want you to know, like, I'm 15 years in. I feel like my business is a well-oiled machine at this point. It practically runs itself. But in the very early days, I actually had an employee. She was a nail technician. So when I first opened up my salon, we were hair, nails, and waxing. I quickly realized that hair is what I knew. So hair was what I could grow, and I should probably stick to that. But in the early days, I tried kind of dabbling in other things just to fill space, stations, rooms in the salon to try to generate that revenue. And I had a girl who was a nail technician, and she was one of my best employees. She showed up every day early. Her station was always clean. The clients loved her. We loved each other. And then out of nowhere, she just started changing. Her energy changed. It could be coming in and out of the room. She was slamming doors, slamming cabinets. If it was just me and her in a room, she would text me what she needed versus just have a conversation with me. And the air started getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And as a very early entrepreneur, I didn't have the skills that I have now. So I was a little bit of that pleasing Patty that we'll talk about in a few slides, where I just wanted everybody to be happy. What ended up happening is because I was trying to make everyone happy, including my employees who weren't as good as she was, she started feeling like, what's the point? Why do I come in and work as hard as I do? So eventually I pulled her aside and I said, look, I can tell your energy's changing. I can tell there's something different. If I've done something to you, please let me know because I'm ignorant to it. And she looked me right in the face and said, I don't respect you as a leader. And that was one of the hardest things anyone has ever said because respect is huge, especially when you're managing a team. So instead of really, I processed it, I felt the feelings, and then I started looking deep as to what does that mean? What can I do to stand up? And I started realizing that I had to create consistency and fairness in my leadership. And I learned how to do that in a way that provided anxiety-free leadership for my team. And it's a practice. It's not something that I'm going to give you a tool today and then tomorrow you're going to be this perfect leader, but it's taking the tools, putting them in place and practicing that. And what I realized is that I had to create fairness across the board and really put those policies and procedures in place to be my backbone in situations where people weren't doing what the expectations were in the business. Now, how many of you can put this in the chat? How many of you are familiar with Simon Sinek? He is one of my absolute favorites. You can put a 1 in the chat if you're familiar with Simon Sinek. He's one of my favorite motivational speakers. He talks a lot about leadership, and he talks a lot about finding your why, which is people don't buy what you do. They buy why you're doing it. What is your why? What is your purpose? Why are you wanting to be an entrepreneur? Because for me, being an entrepreneur and being a leader is really about being a coach. And really looking at the potential of the people who are on your team and trying to bring that out to the best of their abilities. And I always say, my dad, when I got pregnant with my son, said that being a parent is a really big responsibility, that it is my job to raise this small person into a functioning adult. And I look at my employees in the same way, that it's my job to continue to pour into them, to educate them so that if and ever they wanted to be an entrepreneur, they would be able to go out and be a functioning entrepreneur. And it takes a lot of that fear of them leaving your team. And when you get the reputation of a leader as someone who likes to coach people to their highest level, you're going to find it's a lot easier to hire too, because you're going to find that you've got that reputation that people want to come work with you because they know that you're going to grow. So I want you to do a little exercise where you're going to ask yourself why, and then you're going to go 7 layers deep. So typically the first exercise is figuring out what's your why. And if you've ever read his book, Simon Sinek's book, he goes through that. But there's an exercise where you can actually go 7 layers deep into what that looks like. So here would be a few journal prompts that I would recommend. And please feel free to screenshot this so that you've got it. But start off with, why did I want to be a salon owner? For me, when I opened up my salon, I really wanted to combine the things that I loved about the places I had worked before while leaving out the things that I didn't love about the places I had worked before. What makes your story unique? Everybody has a unique story. So what is it about you and your experience and your journey that led you into salon ownership? What is the thing that keeps you motivated? That one is extremely important. And sometimes it's outside of the business. I know when I first looked at my why, it was very surface level. A lot of us just want to make a difference or create that place. But really and truly, what keeps me motivated is the fact that I wanted to provide a life for my son that I didn't have when I was growing up. That's the thing that gets me out of bed every day. What does success look like to you? It's very easy to take these really big business classes that give you the eyes of potential of multiple locations and managers and partners and all of these things. But at what point do you find contentment? So for me, I wanted a salon that really was successful, but that also gave me the time and financial freedom to live the life that I wanted to live. So people ask me all the time, are you going to expand again? Are you going to open another location? And the answer is, at some point, I want to be content with what I have. And that's going to look different for everyone. So my level of contentment is not going to be your level, and so on. But just know that you can be successful without having this continual growth that can sometimes add so much that now you're feeling overwhelmed by just the sheer volume of what you're, trying to achieve. Then what we want to do as we're answering these questions is you want to ask yourself, why is that important to me? So when I first started, I had said, I wanted to take a place where I combined the things that I love with the things that I didn't love, leaving those out, so that I could create the environment that I wanted to work in. But why was that important to me? Well, that was important to me because I realized that some of these places didn't value me as a human. They just valued me as someone who was producing. So why was that important to me? And I realized that, I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be heard. Maybe there were things from my childhood that would come up, and I would go on and on and on and on. And I just kept asking at least 7 times. And I've done this exercise one-on-one with salon owners. And a lot of times when you get to that true why you want to be an entrepreneur, it sometimes can bring you to tears when you find out that deeper reasoning why. So as I've mentioned, I first thought I wanted a salon that was combining everything into one perfect salon. But when I went 7 layers deep, it was, I really just wanted to provide my son the life I didn't have growing up. Now that's evolved as a salon owner because it now goes beyond the deep of wanting my son to have that life. It's also knowing that I hold the responsibility of other people's employment in my hands, and I want to provide that for them as well. So I really love the concept and idea of bringing in young stylists, having a training program in place, and watching them flourish. I've had a few apprentices now where in Virginia, we have the ability to take them from zero to licensed. Some apprenticeships, they have to already be licensed in different states. There is nothing more satisfying than watching someone with zero training go through a program and get their license and start making a real living behind the chair. And I love doing that with the intention that maybe one day they'll go on to do their own thing, but just like I did. So it takes the fear of employees leaving when I start thinking about my own journey, which was I worked in a salon, I moved to a bigger spa to get education, I went independent, and then I opened my own salon. So if I wanted all of that for myself, I certainly could not find fault in anyone else who was wanting that for them. So I can really take my 7 layers deep, my life for my son that I didn't have, and I can transition that into my team and really truly want the same things that I want for my own child. Your 7 layers deep exercise, that's going to be the thing that guides you to be the reason why you get out of bed every morning. A job's a job. When the alarm goes off, I love my job. I'm working my dream schedule. I still don't want to get up when the alarm goes off. So you've got to have that thing that is motivating you for wanting to get out of bed every single morning. And for me, it's making that difference. So, your why versus your purpose, the why is that thing that's going to keep you going when the going gets tough. That's your motivation. Your purpose is going to be the guide in every decision that you make for your life, whether it's business or personal. In some of my programs, the next module that would come after this, we would start talking about branding, and branding goes beyond the logo, beyond your website, beyond colors. And we're using your purpose to really guide those decisions. Unfortunately, I've got an hour today and I'm going to try to jam pack as much as I can in this. So we're not going to go deep into branding, but your purpose is what's guiding you. So your why is what gets you going. Your purpose is going to guide you. So when you start making decisions for your policies, you want to go back to your purpose. When you start looking at your non-negotiables, we're going to go back to that. So I like to do this as almost a fill in the blank exercise when I'm working with salon owners, where it's like, my life's calling is, we have a list of different words. Maybe it's to help, inspire, educate, create. There's all of these different words that you can use. And for me, I want people to experience loving fulfillment. When they're around me, I want them to know, regardless, that I meet you where you're at, I accept you as you are, all of you is welcome here, and that you are loved in every decision that I do. And also the fulfillment piece, meaning I'm helping them achieve their own definition of success. So that is my purpose. So when I'm making decisions for my business, it's really important that I have this clearly outlined, because I want to bring everything back to that. When I'm creating my policies, when I'm creating my non-negotiables, is it aligned with what I feel like my purpose in life is? Now, yours is going to look completely different from mine. And if you're curious about how to kind of fill in this blank, think about those words that you can use: help, create, inspire, educate. Those are all really good words. And then just close your eyes for a second and think about one of the times in your life where you really did something you were proud of. And why were you proud? What was that proving to you, to people around you? What were the feelings that you were feeling? So for me, when I close my eyes and think about what that situation is, I remember just feeling so proud of myself. And I remember feeling completely fulfilled. And yet, love is so important to me in so many different ways. It can be so cliche, but for me, it's just really important that people see me as a safe space that they can always go to. So that's how I was able to put this statement together. So that's something that I would highly recommend you doing to kind of figure out what that looks like when you're starting to build out all of the different systems in your business. The truth is, you can be the best in your craft and not be successful in business. And I think that goes for hairstylists, independents, salon owners. Sometimes the best busy booked hairstylist is the one who's the best at marketing. They're not even the best in their craft. So it's really important that you keep learning and you keep growing. And the fact that you're here today in this conversation right now learning is so huge, because it means that you're willing to take the time to invest in your personal development, your growth, your business education. So just be a forever student, know that you can be the best and you can have a successful business with just a few small tweaks. If you want to be successful, you have to shift the mindset from being the boss or the leader and really work on serving your people. So one of the things I like to say about my salon, I am a commissioned paid salon, is that I pay a commission, but I am a done for you salon. I feel like when we say I'm a commissioned salon, it instantly has this like negative feeling, like, oh gosh, I've worked in commissioned salons. But instead, I like to kind of let people, before they come on my team or my team, know that my job is to make their jobs the easiest that they can be. Because as I say, happy stylist equal happy clients equal a happy leader. And so if I'm constantly serving my team to make their environment the best it possibly can be, they will then serve the clients. And so we all think that we work for money, but really, I think it's the way that we serve for money. When we serve people, the money will come. Okay, so to recap on some of the CEO mindset, Number one, a successful business is more than just the products or service that you're selling. It comes back to your why and your purpose and serving people. Remembering that why is what's going to motivate you every single day to get up out of the bed. I do it for my son. Everything I do for him. I tell him that all the time. Honestly, it's my dog too, because she's pretty spoiled. So I do that for her. And then discovering your purpose is going to guide you into your consistent decision making that's going to help keep you true to yourself and true to your brand. And I want you to always remember that you are not your business and your business is not you. There are so many times when I'm in conversations with my team that I will say, Kelly, the person really wants to say yes right now. Unfortunately, as a business with 20 employees, if I can't say yes to all 20, I can't say yes to you, because that's helping me keep with that integrity and it's being fair to my team. So it's really important that you're defining yourself in a way that allows you to be the individual and the business without any kind of muddying of the water in between. Knowing your why and your purpose is the backbone to which everything in your business will then support you as a leader. And a lot of times when you're a leader of a salon, it can be very lonely. No one quite gets it the way that you do, and no one's going to care about it in the way that you do. And they shouldn't, because it's not theirs. You signed up for all of that responsibility. And with your team, we want them to be on board with the culture. We have agreements when we bring them on, but at the end of the day, it is yours and yours to manage to make sure that they are doing their part of the agreement. Good leadership is the ability to inspire, guide, and influence your team to work together towards the common goal and foster a positive working environment. One of the analogies that I like to use when it comes to being a leader or salon owner is to think about the conductor of an orchestra. So the conductor of the orchestra learns the music, knows it inside and out, but doesn't actually play an instrument. It is their job to make sure that every instrument comes in when it's supposed to, plays the right notes, and creates harmony within the music. So think of the CEO as the conductor. It is your job to make sure that you are letting everyone know what the expectations are. You're letting them know when they've, butted up against your boundaries. And then you're making sure that everyone is working together in harmony to create your salon culture. So what type of leader are you? Are you the pleasing Patty, the bitchy Betty, or the conscious CEO? For me, when I first started out, I was the pleasing Patty, but it also could turn into the bitchy Betty because I was such a pleaser that I was letting my team walk all over me, that I would take it, take it, take it, take it, and then I'd become the bitchy Betty. It would just cause me to explode. And so I think number one is really the most common. It's like we live a lot of times in hostage or fear of our employees because our employees know we need their production to be successful. So a lot of times they're going to hold some things over us knowing that we need them. And so what we want to do is from the very beginning, by becoming that conscious CEO, is we want to have those agreements. One of the things I like to do is in the interview, do what most people do in their onboarding. So I will sit down with my policies and say, I have them talk first. So I let them share a little bit about who they are. I have my questions that I ask, and then I share the story of 1213 Hair Studio. And within that story, I talk about our mission statement, the story of 1213, our core values, and then I go right into the policies of the position. So if we're talking about a stylist, we go through all of the policies of the stylist. Then we go through everything that they would need for their employment. What do their benefits look like? What does their time off look like? What does employee services look like? So if they want to bring in a friend or a family, flexible time, their pay scale. I do all of this in the interview, and then I ask them to go think on it and get back in touch with me. And if it's something that they're interested in, then I know they're my person. If it's something where they're like, this is too much, this lady's got it way too organized, I know that's not my person. And it's funny because with having everything that organized up front and them agreeing to it, You very rarely ever have to manage. So before I had policies and procedures, expectations, non-negotiables in place, I found that I was managing all the time. Nothing was tangible. So I had nothing to rely back on. And it was very easy for me to be like, oh, shoot, I don't know. What did I say last time? So we want to make these extremely tangible, something they can hold in their hands and something that they are confidently agreeing to when we bring them on. This now gives you
Oh,
some.
no, I know, I know.
Oh,
There we go. This will now give you something to reference back in your leadership, which is really important. And that's going to take the anxiety out of those conversations. No more pleasing, no more bitching when things don't go right. Now we get to step up and be a conscious CEO and be that person that people respect. Your branding, systems, policies, scripts, and boundaries should all be there to back you up in your leadership. So these are all things that you can work on. I really love scripting. I think scripting is so important in the salon because, if we think about going somewhere, let's use Starbucks. Everybody knows Starbucks. I don't care if I'm in my hometown, across the country, I travel to Mexico a lot. No matter where I go in Starbucks, I have the same experience. The product is pretty much the same. The warm, friendly greeting is the same. It's very, very consistent. So even though we may not be a mega franchise, we still want that consistency within our business. So I will script out, how do I want the phone call answered? How do I want follow-up calls answered? All of these things are not only there to support your team in their learning, but it's also to guarantee that your business is going to have consistency, whether you're there or not. Remembering you're not your business is not you. They get to be separate. So what is the difference between being the boss versus being the leader? So the boss is someone who's disciplining. I can't tell you how many times I'm working with salon owners and they'll ask me about consequences. Well, what's the consequence of this? The reality is we're working with adults. We're not working with children. We really don't need to have consequences. We need to have a system in place so that when there's a situation, we can sit down, have a conversation, and we have a path that we follow if for whatever reason the employment's not working out, they're not meeting the terms of your agreement. That is the consequence. But, having like commission deductions or, I don't know of all the different things that people do, but that is a form of discipline that really it's just you have a job, we have an agreement, we're going to visit that 2 to 3 times. And then if we're not on the same page, we're not on the same page because we're not going to be living hostage to our staff anymore. The boss really kind of commands things of their people. So you will do this. I need you to do that. They blame when things aren't going right. So they just pull someone aside and make that first assumption and just blame the person. They tend to know it all and they're using their team to their advantage. So as a leader, you're going to coach your team. So when you find that something is not working, we're going to visit that. We're going to ask that clarity. So we're going to seek clarity. Help me to understand when I hired you, these were the terms of the agreement, and I feel like that's not being met. Help me to understand. They're usually going to tell you why that's happening. And then you can coach them and give them all of the different tools and resources to make sure that they are doing it in the way that you would like for the consistency of your brand. They're going to share everything. I am so transparent with my team. I will show them my budget. I will show them what I take home because people don't know what they don't know and they will make assumptions. And so I can't tell you, I remember one time I bought a new car. It was just a little Chevrolet 4-door car. It was not fancy at all. And I had an employee, this was years ago, it's not my current team. And they were like, oh, must be nice. We can't even X, Y, and Z in the salon and she's getting a new car. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not my business and my business is not me. So keeping in mind that it's okay to be transparent about what it takes to run your business and you're sharing everything again with that mentality of, we're going to raise them to be functioning adults that they could one day go off and do this for themselves if and when they want to, and then you can be a resource to them. I actually had someone on my team go off and open their own salon, and they were like, you've taught me everything. I feel like I would be a good leader. I think I'm ready. And I was like, I think you're ready too. So they left to open a salon, discovered it was not for them. hated every second of it, came back crying and said, "Will you take me back?" So when you leave your employees on the best foot possible with the most amount of support that you can, you never know if they're going to come back to you. So I support all of my people in really taking whatever their next step is. And that leads to motivating. So how are we motivating our team? You can do that in many different ways, right? You can do contests, you can do incentives, you can do percentages if we're talking about retail. So there's all of these different ways that you can motivate your team to reach their goals without being the boss. So here are some of the key components to your leadership. Number one, the interviewing and hiring, which we touched on a little bit. We want to do all of that onboarding in the very first interaction with them. That's going to let us know if they like what we're selling. A lot of times it is way more overwhelming in the interview than it actually is to work for me. But I just want to make sure that they know exactly what they're getting themselves into, exactly what my expectations are. And I also ask them what their expectations of a leader are. What are you looking for in a manager? Then you're going to have your management protocols, which we're going to talk about in a second, on how we lead our teams in an anxiety-free situation. Because look, I am the least confrontational person ever. I do not want to have those conversations. However, I have tools in place that help me to revisit all of those agreements to have my back so that it's in a way that my team knows what to expect every single time we sit down. We do them on a regular basis so that it's not this one-off, we need to talk. Nothing makes you feel more anxious and sick to your stomach than someone saying, we need to talk, even if it's a good thing. I hate when I'm like, just tell me what it is. I just need to know. We want to have employee benefits. So things that show our team that we value them. So it's really important to me to research what other industries are doing, how other employees are being treated. I like to provide as much as possible. So we have paid time off, paid vacations, we have health insurance, all of these different things. Now, if you're a newer business, you may not be able to provide all of that, and that's okay. I've been in salon ownership for 15 years. But there are other things that we can do, like birthday celebrations. We can do anniversary gifts, classes, education, team outings to build that culture. One thing that I do like to do with my staff is always make everything available with no expectation that they actually come. So I know that's really hard because it can be really deflating when you put all of this time and energy into planning something for your team and then they don't show up. And I've had it happen. However, I want people who want to be there and be engaged versus people who do not want to be there. And sometimes I might have an educational class that's really geared towards my younger stylist, like the basics of hair cutting, that my upper people, they just don't need it. So I'm not going to require them to be there. The other thing is it really can help save on your payroll if you make those more of an optional thing. But the important thing is to take it back to remembering this is about serving. My job is to serve my team with no other expectation than the agreements we put in place in the beginning. So if that is something that's really important to you, that they show up for education and outings, let that be a part of your very first initial agreements so that you can then revisit it. And then, of course, the anniversary gifts. I love to do that. I try to think of the love languages. I don't know who here knows of the love languages, but when you are designing incentives for your team, try to think of them so that they touch on every single one. So some people like words of affirmation, an act of service. Some people like a gift. So as I'm designing things, I like to make sure that I can touch on that. So we might have an anniversary gift, but then I'll go take a picture of that person and send it to the team, and the team will then celebrate that person. And it's kind of touching on all of those different areas because everybody is motivated by something different. So if you can learn that about your team and hone in on that, that's really going to help you in your leadership, that everyone feels seen, heard, valued, which are the most important parts of leading your team. As a leader, the goal is to maintain consistency in the day-to-day operations and eliminate the anxiety of having those one-on-one conversations with your team. So what that means is, I'm sure all of you, if you're a salon owner, you've probably got a negative salon experience. So how many times have you worked in a salon and it's like you don't even know who you're going to get that day. Like you walk in and you've got the leader and it's like, oh gosh, what are they going to say today? What did I do? It's like, we need to talk. You were late. You were this. Your station's dirty. Some of these really small issues. Learning to separate out your pet peeves from actual business issues is going to be crucial. And what do I mean by that? In the day-to-day operation, if the building's not on fire, if someone's not going to die, I usually try to table that for our monthly one-on-one sit down. That would even include someone being 10 or 15 minutes late. Now, I know that that is a really big deal when you're operating a salon, if you've got a client sitting there waiting and your stylist hasn't showed up. However, they're likely already anxious because they're running late. So if you take that employee aside and then you throw it on top of them that you're upset about it, they're likely going to be even more upset and it's going to affect the work that they do. Their job is to service the clients in the best way possible. So is this something that you could put aside in a notepad on your phone? I have one for every single person that's on my team. And as little things come up throughout the month, I just notate them on that notepad. I believe that might be my next slide. No, it's not. I like to notate that on my notepad so that when the time comes to have that conversation, I've got it readily available. Now, when I do that, sometimes I will actually come back and notice that whatever was bothering me that one day is not bothering me today, especially as females. We are cyclical cycles, humans. And depending on the week, something different could bother me week to week and it not bother me the next week. So it's really important that you're kind of giving yourself the time to reflect so that you're having conversations around the things that really do matter and not around the things that don't matter. And I will make this joke that if they show up drunk and pantless, you got to handle it right there. So I actually did have that happen. I had an employee come drunk from the night before in her boyfriend's t-shirt and no pants. And I was like, sweetheart, you have to go home. This is a building on fire issue. So if it is building on fire, please, by all means, take care of it. But if it's something that you can let go, save that for your minor occurrence monthly meeting. That's what I would do. So here is a little example of what my personal development meeting looks like. I have a worksheet that we use so that when I do sit down with my staff, they know exactly what we're going to be going over. That is what's going to take the anxiety. Is every single month there's a worksheet when we go over it, and within the worksheet, these are the things that you would see. So I always put the stylist name and date. It's really important as an owner that not only are you doing this to develop your team, but also this is an extra step that covers your butt. So if for whatever reason you do have to let someone go, they're going to go to unemployment. They're going to say that they were let go and they want to collect money, and unemployment's going to reach out to hear your side. And the first thing that they're going to usually ask is, did you coach this person? Did you give them the opportunity to grow and be better? And this is where these are going to come in and support you with that. So you can say, yes, here's 3 months worth of sit downs with this person. And so a lot of times it's really important that on that one offense, unless it's drunk and pantless, that we are giving them the time to grow. And there's been times when I've even had other team members come to me and complain about someone, and I'm like, I've got a path. I'm working on it, but you have to give them the chance to show whether or not they're willing to be coached and improved. And this worksheet template's going to do that for you. So the personal development meeting, name and date, that way you've got that to support you. The first thing we're going to do is listen. So I always like them to know that they've got my undivided attention for that 10 minutes that we're sitting there. And I will ask them things like, how are things going? Any questions, thoughts, concerns, or ways that I can support you better? Now, sometimes they will have something that's pretty big. This go around, I had brought in a new retail line and 4 of them said how much they hate it and they don't like it. That's really good feedback, because why am I going to keep a product line that the stylists don't like just to sit there and collect dust? So I want to know that. Sometimes they're going to come with something that's very personal and individualized. And I will say, can I do this for everyone? And they'll say, probably not. I'm like, it'll answer itself. So I want to be fair with that of, can I do it for all 20 of you? No. And I can't do it for one. I'm really sorry. Kelly, the person, hears you, sees you, understands you, but as a business, I cannot support that. And then other times it's silly. I've had them ask for like a shelf over the sink because they wanted somewhere to put their water bottles. And I'm like, that's such an easy fix. And that's going to make my team happy. So that is like the small things you can do as an owner. So my favorite question each month is, how can I support you better in your job? Then we're going to review their numbers. This one's really important, and you'll have your own goals set for your team. But this is where I'm starting to assess, can I give them a price increase? So we don't do just one salon-wide increase. This is where I wish I had another hour and we could talk about price increases, but we use this time to look at their performance over the past 3 months. We're always looking at a 3-month consistency there. And if they're hitting their goals 3 months in a row, we raise their prices so that we've got someone growing all of the time. Then we have a rating system. The rating system is based off of those policies that we were talking about before. So what was my expectation on being on time? What is their dress code? Are they reliable? Do they do teamwork? Whatever your expectations are, you would want this rating system to support you in your policies. That gives you the opportunity to discuss those things in a way that is not, hey, we need to talk, where it produces that anxiety. They know every single month that you're going to be reviewing this, that you're going to be going over this. They know what's in it. They know what to expect. You give them their rating, which is then going to determine plan of action. So the plan of action is either none because they're doing great. And I will say, once you get your team operating in this way, you very rarely have anything to manage. They go so smooth. So most of the time I'm circling none, good job, you're doing great. If I do have that one bad seed, I have the ability to then go verbal, verbal to written, warning, termination. And so it's giving that path. And by the time we're getting there, they know that they're on that path because we've revisited it a couple times. It's not just coming out of anywhere. We end on areas that we might want to see some improvements, and then we always end on achievements. I think it's really important that after you've had that conversation, you're ending on something that's positive, something that they've been doing well throughout the month. Everybody signs it at the bottom. If for whatever reason you do have to get into that conversation of a warning of termination or termination, I have a line on my worksheet for a witness, and I usually bring in one of my senior stylists to sit there. Again, if you were to have to use this in an unemployment situation, you can use that witness as a witness in the case as well to say, I was there, this is what happened. They can kind of confirm everything and just have your back in that. So that is the PDM form. I have a copy of that. If anyone's actually interested in having one or seeing one, please reach out. You can find me on Instagram, send me an email. I'd be happy to share what mine looks like with you so that you can see it and you can use it as is, or you can edit it to make it your own. But please feel free to reach out and I'll share that with you. Now, staff meetings, I like to do more quarterly. So I am not a big monthly staff meeting kind of person because a lot of the things that I would want to be addressing would actually be in those one-on-one sit downs because I don't love the idea of calling someone out in a group setting when that one person kind of knows it's about them. It's just like everybody knows it's about that one person. So I would rather just have those conversations face to face. And that's where that worksheet's really going to support you from feeling like you're confrontational because none of us want to be confrontational. So the staff meetings are where we're just going to talk about some general housekeeping. Is everybody slacking a little bit with washing their color bowls or the shampoo bowls? Could there be a group reminder? The very first meeting of every year that I do in January, February, I actually just revisit the hiring protocols because you would be surprised that people who have been on my team for 10 years still will say, how do I charge my mom when she comes in? I'm like, you've been here 10 years. How do you not know this? But they don't. It's not always on, the top of their mind how your policies are. So I like to use that first one to really do something like remind them of all of that. And then trainings and updates. So this is a really great place for you to let them know of upcoming events, classes, outings, things that you're going to be doing so everyone's on the same page. I like to provide lunch here because it gives them about 30 minutes to just stop and connect and be with each other. So we do those, we alternate those. I do a 3-month schedule where it's education, staff outing, staff meeting, and then we rotate that again, education, staff outing, staff meeting. So they're getting something every month, but it's rotating every quarter. And then the team culture is we do those team lunch meetings. So that's giving them once a quarter the opportunity, especially since I have the two side-by-side locations. They get to all come together at one time and be a cohesive group. We do classes, the education, staff outings. I always try to find something fun. And one thing that I would say about outings, which is hard because it takes away a little bit of your revenue, is I try to do them during our open working hours. So they get to take some time off of their schedule. Some people will make up hours on a different day. Others will take the opportunity to just be off. But I try to not schedule things in what is their off hours. So we are closed Saturday and Sunday. So I try not to ever schedule anything on those Saturday, Sundays. I always usually try to do Monday, first of the week. We do staff treat days, celebrate the birthdays, anniversaries. These are all of the things that really just add the feel goods to your company and build that culture so that people are excited to work there. Now, if you are finding yourself in a position where you need team and you're still building a clientele, I would say it's really important to showcase all of these items on your socials as much as you're showcasing all of the things about clients, because you want to show other stylists the fun that your team has, like the culture that you've built, what they can look forward to. And I highly recommend putting a pinned post right on your salon's page that says how to join our team, what you can expect, who we're looking for. And that way, anytime someone visits your page, it's the first thing they're seeing if you're strongly looking to build a team. But these are a great little way to use these as content pillars. So aside from building that team culture, you can also use this to showcase your team and highlight your team to attract other people to come work for you. As a leader, your role is to serve and support your team, not the other way around. So you guys can tell. And I know this probably sounds like, gosh, she sounds like the pleasing Patty, but I promise you, if you just make it your mission to serve, you don't have to do as much of that pleasing. So yes, I give and I give to my team, but on the other way around, like I have the policies and boundaries and procedures to support everything that I want in my leadership. So it's really a two-way street, which is really nice. There's mutual respect there. Stay super focused on your team's goals, dedicate to their growth, and provide a space that you would want to work and what you would expect for a leader. So that one is also extremely important to me in leadership, because sometimes there's going to be decisions that come up as a leader that I have a different answer for the business than I do for the human. So I really try to put myself in the human shoes and say, if I was this employee right now, in this situation, asking for what they're asking for, what would I want? Because sometimes the textbook, what is right for business, is not always what you would want. And so I really try to be the leader and the employer of what I would have wanted when I was in their shoes. This helps me a lot when people call out sick, because it is a huge inconvenience when your stylist calls out sick. And sometimes we do doubt whether or not they really are sick. But I have to think, I have to always trust that they're going to tell me the truth, whether they are or they are not. And then I have to think about, if I was them right now, I have a migraine and they're texting out. What if I had a migraine? Would I want my boss to give me a hard time about it when I'm feeling bad already? So it's really important that I respond to them. I'm so sorry that you're feeling that way. Thank you for letting me know. We'll do everything we can on our end to reschedule your day. I can be pissed on the other side of that. I can be giving my significant other an earful about it. However, for that person, I want to treat them the same way that I would want to be treated in that situation and take care of them. That's just one example. So that can come up and show up in a lot of different ways. But, kind of like letting them know what you really think in that moment is not going to serve you as a leader. It's going to tick them off. It's going to make them mad, and they already feel bad. So we just want to make sure that we're supporting them the way that you would want to be supported. All right. How are we on time? I try to make sure that
We are doing good. We are doing good. This is
Excellent.
probably the perfect time for a Q&A. So everybody, if you guys have any questions, now would be the time to put those in the chat. I wanted to comment, Kelly, on something that you had talked about kind of in the beginning, but it really hit home for me because I've gone through this exercise, the finding your why. In my mid-20s, I was in a form of coaching, and I went through it, and it sounds really cheesy, but I really can't stress how important that exercise is for the human experience in general. And I would almost suggest that you do go through some form of coaching, because I really think that once you find the one that is, your actual why, you do cry. For sure. It was a really emotional experience for me, but it changes your entire trajectory. So regardless of how you exist or want to exist in the industry, once you figure that out, you're going to be on that path either way. So I just wanted to kind of share that and really kind of stress from another point of view. It's so important that you do that.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. It's a life-changing. And if you're not familiar with Simon Sinek, I feel like everybody at this point is, but if you're not, he has the book Start With Why, and it's a great place. And he even has, I usually include this in my actual mastermind. We watch the video. So he's got like one of the most popular TED Talks that have ever been produced called Start With Why. And it's really good. He's also my hall pass. And I know that's so random. Everyone has Jason Momoa. For me, I'm like, give me Simon Sinek. I love the nerds, but no, he's wonderful. Simon Sinek is wonderful. So if you've not, read that book or done those exercises, I highly, highly recommend that you do.
Yeah, some kind of guidance when you're going through it is definitely helpful, especially the kind of person that I am. I know that I probably would have become very frustrated with the experience before getting to my actual one, but it's huge. So a couple things that we're getting in the chat, I'll just kind of go through really quickly. So we had a message a little bit earlier. Hi, my name is Frenchie. Hi, Frenchie, from Hair Vice Studio in Philly. Please recap the redirection words for commission-based salons.
Yeah, so I like to call it a done for you salon. So I think of it, you hear that term a lot when you're looking at online business stuff, where it's like a copywriter is a done for you service, meaning they do your copywriting for you. So I like to think of my salon as a done for you salon, meaning you get to come in, do hair, service clients, and go home. I'm going to take care of everything else. And that's why it's really important that you're finding the way to build in your CEO hours, your chaos time, all of that. So I only work 2 days at the salon now, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they may not necessarily see me working, but behind the scenes, I'm doing a lot for them, answering emails, doing bridal contracts, handling cancellations and the cancellation policy. That way they don't have to. So when a client cancels, they don't have to have that conversation. That's my job to do that. So I look at it as I want to do everything that I possibly can do for my team so that they literally show up, do hair, clean up, go home. I take care of the rest. So done for you service.
Nice.
And I like that if you're looking for a team, I like that in your advertising. So it's like, instead of saying I'm a commission salon, because it does just, commission salons have such a bad rap, but you're not really a commission salon, you pay a commission. You're a done for you team-based salon. So I think by taking commission salon out of it, it removes that negative kind of feeling that, that word has produced over the past few years.
Sure. And I think the other question that we had come through was about the PDM, which you responded with your email. So thank you for that. So anybody who would like a copy of that, Kelly has put her email in the chat.
Making sure there's no typos. Kelly at scissorsmakesense.com. Yes, there we go.
I've got my big glasses on, so they're perfect. Yeah. Got it.
Awesome. I know. I'm in readers now, so I have to wear them as well.
Yeah. Well, I think when you spend so much time looking at a screen, especially in this age, which everybody does, like something has got to be there. Okay. Any other questions, you guys? Put them in the chat. I also want to make a few remarks on the kind of Aura side of things. Thank you, everybody who has, hung out with us today. We love doing these calls, and we love having people like Kelly co-host with us and talk about a number of different topics. If you guys are already working with us, thank you. If you are not and you are interested in our booking platform, we are offering a free iPad for anyone who signs up with us before the 31st of this month. Another thing as well that I want to point out is our Instagram page, Aura Salonwear. So if you follow us on Instagram, we do post a lot about these events, these calls whenever we have them. So that would be a good place to go for anything related to our schedule. And I see this one, Kelly, also how to deal with bossy employers and not to want to do the chores.
Yeah, I deal with that in that PDM form. So that's the hardest part, right? Is like, You have your path, so you'll sit down with them, you'll give them those opportunities, you'll revisit, so you'll ask for clarity, like, help me to understand, we've had this conversation. And then, it's really kind of that path of three strikes, you're out. So if they're not doing it, and I know that's really hard because we rely on their production, but we also did not go into entrepreneurship to be held hostage by employees and by our team. And as hard as it will be, I've even let go of like top people. It's hard, but at the same time, your team, it's not just for that one individual. So you're getting rid of that stress of them not following your procedures and policies. You're also showing the rest of your team that you're serious about your leadership and that you're fair, and that just because someone is that high producer doesn't mean that you're not going to stick to your boundaries and your policies. So if you haven't been doing that, like, that's one question that would come up, is like, well, how do I start? I have never done anything. First and foremost, my favorite quote that I learned from my mentor, Nick Arrojo: manage the past, grow the future. So it's really hard if you've never put these things in place to all of a sudden just come in and put them in place. You've kind of created that bed. So there may be some things that we have to be lenient on with the team that we've already hired, knowing that from this point on, we're going to hire with better policies and expectations and non-negotiables. So it can be a little bit of a gray area. I've definitely been in times of my salon ownership where I've been managing almost two separate teams, because one was on an old set and one was on a new. I never, ever, ever want anyone to come into a situation and then just go in the next day and be like, we're changing everything, and then you lose your whole team. Don't do that. Especially too, I always say after a training like this, if anything's jiving in your brain, you're getting good ideas, write them down, really sit with them, really reflect them, really think them through. Don't go from a call like this or any type of business training into the salon and be like, guess what I learned? We're going to do this. And it's like, your team will not understand that. So it's really good to take the time to really think it through, put a plan in place, and then implement that. And I say one thing at a time. Your team, whenever there's major changes that they don't like, you have to just go into it expecting there's going to be 6 to 8 weeks of discomfort. But once they get through the discomfort, it becomes normal to them, then they're going to move on to something else. So just allow yourself the grace of knowing 6 to 8 weeks might be a little bit of hell as you navigate a change, but by that 6 to 8 week, they're already thinking about something else. So you just want to work with them, but don't throw a bunch at them at one time. Really kind of list it out, think it through. How are you going to implement it? Which one's the most top priority? Let's start with that one. Give that one the chance to make changes and feel comfortable before you bring in the next. We're playing a long game here. So we're not running a sprint. Running your business is a marathon. So if you've made some mistakes, which I did, lots in the beginning, just, kind of take it one thing at a time as you're implementing those changes.
Yeah. We've got a couple more. I love this. They're kind of like pouring in right now. But Rebecca, hi, Rebecca. Besides dialing in my why, what steps would you recommend as an independent who wants to start their own team? So wants to kind of grow.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I recommend finding a mentor. There's people like me. I know another one, Laura, she does like the micro salon experience, could be really good for an independent. And so I think it's really dialing in with someone who's doing what you want to be doing and learning for them. You can definitely do it on your own. You can start with your why, start building out your branding, your core values, your mission statement, all of that. You can do it on your own, but it could take you twice as long if you found a mentor who's like, I've already done all the work for you. I've got all the steps in place. Here you go. It's like, I know mine's like a business in a box almost. I just hand it to you and you fill in the blanks. And there's tons of people. I'm not definitely not self-promoting, just me, but there's tons of people. So you want to, it's like dating. You want to find the right one that aligns with you, who's doing what you want to be doing, and you can learn it and get there a lot faster.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's see what else. I know we've got a couple of other things. For some reason, though, the chat is freezing up a little bit for me. I think that we had like one or two more in though. Kelly, can you read them? Can you see them?
I can see them. So I have stylists handle their own cancellation calls, because if they want to go out on their own, it's a skill they need to be able to do. Not sure how to handle this. I've learned both. I don't think it's a right or wrong. If you have a team that does not like doing it, then, definitely be like, I'm here to support you. If they like doing it on their own and you're trying to empower them to do those types of things, then I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think it's what's fitting your situation. If they've been doing it and they're comfortable doing it, by all means, let them. The one thing that I would say is anytime you have your stylist doing something and it's representing your business, is maybe provide a script so that they've got something that they can utilize and it's a consistent way of doing it. Because I've had, I've had just even phone conversations with stylists where they're maybe having a conversation in the DMs and I'm like, oh, I would say this is this. And then when I read what they actually sent compared to like what I thought I was saying, they're so different. And I'm like, oh gosh, I would have never sent that. That sounds like that is not what I was saying. So just having something that they can plug and play is really important. They can either read it or type it, whatever, and then they just add in their details. That's going to keep, like we were talking about, that Starbucks effect. That's going to keep consistency in your business and making sure that it's being handled and reflective of what you would want your business to look like.
Yeah. I think there's one more, and I think we'll probably cap it there. But I love this question. I think this kind of summarizes, a lot of the call, which is the owner-manager relationships. So any tips for owner-manager relationships, especially when you're behind the chair like 90% of the time, which I also really want to know.
Okay. Any tips for owner manager relationships and working together, especially with the owner working? So you're saying like you work mostly behind the chair and then you have the manager. Honestly, I would do the exact same thing. And that one's hard if it's already established with some leeway there, but I would make sure that I had like a full job description of what it looked like, what their expectations were, what you wanted. And then I would create another meeting template to go over those exact things. And it's like, again, it's more just a form of communication. It's not like, okay, so fill me in on inventory and fill me in on the budget and fill me in on this. Because even as the owner, you can take that 10% time that you're talking about and once a month have that sit down meeting to go over what that looks like. But at the end of the day, if they work, I hate to even say like work for you, that just, they work alongside of you, but if they work for you and your business and your brand, they should have signed up to a certain amount of agreements on both sides that then you use that to manage the position. One thing that I really like about manager positions is a lot of times I see people in terms of pay go in with something really high or what they think that position should be. And then in my experience, I've had managers ride on that. So one thing that I've seen with front desk and managers is that the stylists tend to have a lot of flexibility because they can do a color, let it process, go sit, eat, chat, whatever in the break room. But your managers and your front desk and assistants and things like that, they're on the clock. They're being paid for their time. And then they kind of see this side having that relaxed schedule and they start doing that little by little. They're hanging in the break room, they're chatting, they're spending a little longer there than they would if they got back to the desk or whatever. I like to find kind of a nice, healthy, low wage, and then give them a percentage of the success of the business because that guarantees that they're producing with incentive. Otherwise, they're just riding on that. So I find that to be really, really helpful in those positions where it's like you have a flat pay plus a percentage of the success of the business so that they're focused and motivated to make the business successful. Mm-hmm. Was that helpful? Did I answer that question?
In my opinion, yes. I found that very helpful, yes. I lied. There's one more that I want to kind of highlight here, which is basically how to find mentorship, which I think that's a really important question because there's definitely, right and wrong, I guess, avenues for each person when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Instagram is such a good place to go. You can type in things like salon business education. You can always reach out to me and we can do a 30-minute call to see if I would be a good fit. I also have a lot of friends in the industry. So like my friend Laura does the micro salon experience, whereas I'm more of a bigger salon. Hers is more like you're in a suite and you're bringing on your first assistants and things like that. So you're building a team, but maybe not a full-blown salon. But there's so many, like I said, I'm willing to chat with you and I'll always be honest on whether or not I think I'm the right person, or if I have a friend in the industry who might be a better fit. But Instagram's a great place. You can use the search optimization in there, look for salon business education. And there's just so many, like, again, there's ones that I can recommend that are more like big academies. They're going to be a lot more of a commitment in time and expense, but they're big, kind of like working with thrivers. Or you can find someone like I'm more of an individual style coach. I like to do more one-on-one work. So it's really, some of the questions that I would ask is first that looking it up on Instagram, finding what your options are, asking yourself, of course, what's your budget? What kind of commitment do you want to make? Do you learn better in group settings or do you learn better in one-on-one settings? And then schedule that call. Most most people have some type of a 30-minute discovery call and really get to know that person and see if the energy aligns. It's like dating, so my story is going to be different and resonate with some people, and this person's story is going to be different. But Instagram, honestly, like in terms of how do you go about finding a mentor, such a great place, because most of us are advertising on there what we do, and you can tell by the content what their messaging is, what they stand for. And I think you'll just know, you'll have a aligned feeling of whether or not that's like it's like that know, like, and trust. You feel like you know them, like them, and trust them. And if so, I think they would be a good mentor, but definitely take advantage of anyone's like 30-minute discovery call to have a conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It is a lot like dating. We're like finding a good therapist, really, but just making sure that somebody is a fit. It looks like those were the questions that we had in the chat. So I think we can probably end it there. So Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge once again. We would love to have you back. I love getting to talk to you, and everybody who tuned in. Thank you so much for coming. We will be distributing a recording of this. And then obviously, if you wanted to get any of that material from Kelly, you have her information. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.